Добрый день еще раз, дорогие друзья.
Hello again, dear friends. We're beginning the second session of today at this wonderful event. My name is Sergei Grebennikov. I represent the Regional Public Center for Internet Technologies. This is a not-for-profit organization that has been in existence for over 20 years. It believes its main goal is to protect Internet users' rights. Internet is changing. And during the first session, we talked about technologies, that Internet of Things is coming into our lives very actively and aggressively. And this is the Internet of Things that we are helping to develop. But without the media space, without the social networks, without the mass media, our lives would not be imaginable. And I think this is a natural segue to the next conversation that we'll speak about how we consume the Internet content, how we engage with each other, how communications are working, and we'll most importantly talk about how these communications are going to be evolving in the near future. I think that in about 50, maybe 60 years, there will be a different geopolitical map of the world. In your opinion, what countries will be on that map? Any ideas? Okay, let us not do any guesswork right now. I will share with you what I think. I think on the geopolitical map of the world 2.0, there will be such countries as Google, Facebook, Yandex, Mail.ru, and other companies that own big data, the big data of the users. And today, we'll be talking about this, about how communications work and how those communications interact with us on a daily basis. And for today's session, I would like to invite Kirill Litavinsky, the manager for strategic partnership development at YouTube. Hello, Kirill. Yael Shafrir, CEO for Playbuzz Ltd. And Thierry Sellerin, who will join us shortly. Hello again, and we are beginning our session, which will talk about how the media are going to affect our lives in today's world. And the first to speak will be Kirill from YouTube. So we may all realize today that YouTube is becoming the platform that we consume one way or the other. And YouTube has a very strong influence on what we choose, which kind of education we opt for, and how we conduct our daily lives. Whether I'm right or wrong, I think that's up to Kirill to say, and he will suggest. Can I take the microphone from you? Yes. I prefer to be standing while I'm talking so that I could have some movement going on. So this is the clicker, and I would talk to people. I would be driving mad people with the video cameras. I will not focus on YouTube. I will talk about video content in general. I would like to present to you the video content as we see it, how it is changing our lives, how it has changed our lives over the last 10 years, for example. So that's the title, The Reality and Future of Video Format. I'll be talking very fast, and the interpreters will have to work hard as well, but hopefully you will like it. So video. The video content in general is something that occupies a very strong, considerable niche in our daily lives. So just to liven things up, I'm sure you all watch videos on YouTube. Who goes to YouTube at least once a week? Raise your hands. Everyone, once a day. That tells you a lot. And it's really nice to know because it tells me that I don't come to work for nothing on a daily basis. It means something. When I was waiting for my accreditation to be given to me, I spoke with one of the volunteers outside. We spoke about famous people. I mentioned to him that I'm from YouTube, that this is the leader of opinion. And Yuri Tus is one of the people that I work with. That was very interesting for him. Yuri is a person that rides the subway. He doesn't lead a very fashionable lifestyle. He's a journalist by profession, by education, and he just used it properly. He created his own YouTube channel, and he does what he wants. This is one of the examples I wanted to mention, and we'll talk about it more later on. Sleep, work, and watch videos. These are the three main components of our daily lives, and we have been consuming twice as much video content as we did in the past. I'm not just talking about YouTube, I'm talking about any video content. Using various platforms, computers, tablets, smartphones, and statistically speaking, when we talk about the mobile consumption, that's about 50% of all videos consumed. In some countries, that is even more than that. So people don't just come in home, turn on their PC, and look for their favorite channel. They can do that while riding the metro, in line, in a grocery store. So they're consuming this content everywhere. Why is this happening? Let's think about it. There is a very important factor that has played into this. Any ideas in the audience why this is happening? Okay. Do you have your student card? I will give you an A. So broadband internet, that's the answer. That's the backbone of what's making internet one of the key players in our daily lives. This is one of the main factors, but not the only one. In the past, that was not possible because video data is something that is very hefty, a lot of data. And it takes a long time to get it transmitted from one device to the other. Right now, this is done in a click, in a flip of fingers. And that's not the only reason. But the second reason is that the video format is really pervasive from the emotional standpoint. So text or music, they only occupy part of your attention span, but video is something that speaks to your eyes, to your soul, to your imagination. And let us think about how we were learning things in the past as we were growing up. When I was trying to learn to play the guitar 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was really funny. I was card. There was no internet. It was not everywhere. And when I was trying to pull the strings and strum the chords, I was looking for announcements on billboards with teachers advertising for you, and normally it would be hard to connect with such an individual if you had his number because mobile phones were not that pervasive anyway. And it was really hard for me to learn how to play the guitar. I succeeded, but it was hard. But now it's done in a different fashion. Now you can go to YouTube, you can select a guitar lesson, or find your favorite song, find how the chords are to be played, and you just don't have to move away from your computer. You just do it there. And you can go to Skype or Hangout, and you can communicate with your teacher, with your tutor. And the same goes for English lessons. You can use Skype in order to learn your foreign language. Or, for example, I called my doctor, and he told me, well, you don't have to come to my office. We can talk via Skype or Hangout. This is the live format of a bilateral communication. And I would like to say, when we talk about education, but before I go there, let me figure out how to work with this clicker. For some reason, the slide doesn't want to turn. I don't know, maybe there is a button somewhere here. But when we talk about university education, that's great if you have lots of money, if you have very good skills and very rich parents. You can enroll in one of the leading universities in the world, such as Sorbonne or Berkeley, UC Berkeley. But today, thanks to video formats, education has become more democratic. It's more accessible. Thanks to all of the things like YouTube. All of the professors that are teaching at those universities, they also make their lectures available, sometimes free of charge, or sometimes for a fee, but 100 times cheaper. Sorry, I need to turn off my sound on my phone. It is a very important thing, democratization of video. The format allows us to make education more accessible. The same goes for creativity. You don't have to be a staff member of a TV channel or know the right people. You just have to create a video channel, and there you go. But what if you really need to work with real materials, the real matter, the subject matters? Doctors, for example, they are responsible for our health. But that's going to be the subject of our next slide. And hopefully this slide will turn, will flip. Do I need to point my laser pointer somewhere? Do you have any ideas? Do I point here? So the next speaker, please keep this in mind. Okay, it works. That's a magician. He comes and everything works suddenly. So doctors. Doctors operate in virtual reality, because to our brain there's no difference between virtual reality and real reality. And when it comes to educating doctors, there are programs that employ virtual reality. They use specialized tactile gloves that allow them to study the body, anatomy, in the virtual world, in a virtual space. That's great. That's wonderful. And maybe in 10 years' time there will be no anatomical theater or artificial bodies made of silicon. Everything will be done in the VR space. You may say that you wouldn't entrust yourself to such doctors. That's BS. But, well, there are planes that are being piloted by pilots. They are responsible for our lives, and they have been trained in special VR simulators for over 20 years. So VR is the future. What it means to us, and by the way, YouTube belongs to Google. So Google was the pioneer of VR, 360-degree video, and we are trying to make VR more accessible to everyone. I don't know if you've seen Google Daydream, one of the most recent development. It's good quality. You connect your telephone and you enjoy the 360-degree video. It's good for people with handicaps or people that are constrained in terms of their finances. And there are people that do live cast 360-degree panoramic views are offered through that broadcast. You can feel like you're with them, be where they are, without leaving your home. That's quite important to all of us, because such broadcasts is another trend that is replacing the regular video. I used to say that the trend goes like this. If you really want to watch a YouTube video, you will do this on a smartphone. If you want good quality, you would go back home and you would turn on the so-called smart web or smart TV using a console. But today, this trend is bifurcating, branching out into two other areas. Do you know who is Katya Clare? I don't know if you've seen her earlier video. They were sketches. minimalist in style. She was very cautious in her approaches to making her video. It was really cool, but it's not something you will see anymore today because professionals came to YouTube. Let's go back to this Yuri Dudya. He's a professional, he's a journalist, he is from the TV area. For example, Big Rush Boss Show, it's a project for comedy club production. So professionals come to YouTube and they have to spend about the same amount of money for media engagement as they would on TV, but they still use their skills. And so now we measure the channel's success not by the number of subscribers or views, but rather by the success of the show itself. The channel may stay, and Yuri Drushko is not going to be there anymore. They will launch something else. Or Big Russian Impossible, for example. But let me make a side note. All of these formats are push formats. And Dudya comes to you while everyone is at home. They're essentially using the up-to-date format of YouTube. And it engages young people, middle-aged people, the demographic between 20, 35 and above. And so YouTube is growing. It's getting older as the platform now. It used to be just the platform for the youngsters. Now it's for everyone. I mentioned the 360 live casts already, and an important addition is the video messenger. So today, young people my age or younger, they use Telegram Messenger. They send each other bubbles. They do not write text or in Snapchat. People would rather send a message with a mask rather than sending a text. Video format is replacing everything, text, audio. People are not gonna call you. They will leave you a video message, and the same goes for video bloggers. They are your icons, your heroes. They talk to you directly. And all of this is happening on screens of different size, small smartphone screens, tablet screens, PC screens. I don't believe that video is going to replace all forms of interaction. There are Reddit or Medium platforms that create trends, Telegram channels which are text-based, which means that text is still there. It still has a place in today's world. But in reality, video is helping aggregate text and sound, because soundtracks to blockbusters are becoming on the charts of the most popular movies, or the same goes for books. And this takes them to a new level.
So I wouldn't say the video is going to be all pervasive, rather all complicating, complementing. And the distance is no longer the question any longer. Like Sergei has said at the start, in the future, he talked about the card. But I would say that wouldn't mean any longer the maps or the borders. We are going to be citizens of the world. To fantasize a little bit, this can result in very interesting discoveries. Like today, we're talking about neural networks. You probably have heard about these. Any service, even voice service that you're using, whether it's Siri or Alisa that launched recently, and our Google services or Microsoft services, they are all using AI. Even admins of bots, they are self-learning, and they're getting better and better of squeezing out obscene content. Why is that important? Like Stephen Hawking said in his last book, he said that humans should be looking for a planet look-alike for Earth, because there are very many global catastrophes threatening us. It could be nuclear catastrophe, or maybe a virus, artificial virus that went out of control, or that level of consumption that we're living with can make life impossible. So the dangers are very many. So he says we need to find new ways for our existence. These are the words of Stephen Hawking. And for us, this is a chance to be the first ones, the explorers, like explorers that discovered America, Australia, etc., etc. And that would use video formats. Imagine, I would send drones, like exploration drones, that would explore new planets, and 5 to 20 million in our galaxy alone. You can connect from your personal computer to connect to that drone with 360 cameras. You will give out commands to that drone to collect requests from all the people connected to that drone, and will act on the most popular requests, or will use AI analyzing all of this and give out the results that may help them find sources of water or whatever. Today we cannot become such explorers, but the coming 10 to 15 years, with that development of technology that we're witnessing right now, that would be quite realistic. Thank you. Thank you, Kirill. Thank you, Kirill. Indeed, so a totally different view on this matter of video and what is happening. Before I ask a question, I have to ask the audience. We have a Telegram channel. Half an hour ago, we published the questions of a poll on it. Please fill out the questionnaire. We need a minimum 100 participants to have representative sampling. While you're voting, let me say a few words about this Dudai guy and ask a question from Kirill. There was a piece of news from Facebook. Well, people say, I do not watch Dudai. And suddenly people think that it's very popular. Like people say, you don't watch TV, that's a popular thing, or was in the past. In actual fact, if you want to live in a modern society, you don't have to isolate yourself from something. Don't reject the new channels. You have to immerse in this world if you want to be members of society. This is our business. We're in it. We need to know where the audience is moving. I agree. But I would like to ask the audience, do you watch the Game of Thrones? Some people don't, some people do. And I tell you this, the Game of Thrones could be, people could like it or not like it. This is the right of every person. But don't be proud about the fact that you're not watching Game of Thrones. I don't think that this is cool, whether you like it or not like it. It's a cultural phenomenon of the past 10 years, the most expensive show on the planet. You may not like it, but ignoring it is ignoring very serious social trends. Absolutely. My question to Kirill, you said, well, I said that there was a trend of not watching TV, and it was fashionable. Could it happen that we would say, I don't watch YouTube, and that would be trendy? Can it happen in 10 to 15 years? Well, YouTube is a very big platform in terms of demographics. That could happen, but it's changing all the time. 5 years ago it was different, now it's different. And there are so many parts to it. YouTube Kids, YouTube for gamers, where you can find games and stream games. You have musical YouTube, but it's a common platform. Well, the trends will be there. Like I heard from younger people that Facebook is for old people. They don't want to go to Facebook. It's their parents' side. it would be always there will be a trend like this, like these people using Messenger only. Or video messages for people younger than 10 years younger than me cannot do without those. Okay, cool. I hear the message in your response that internet and technology, they go ahead of the things we're used to. Like TVs is not like internet because the technology is different. You cannot change TV overnight because so much technology, old technology, incorporated into TV. You switch channels from 1 to 100 and well, you can do only that. YouTube and other services can give us as much content as we need. There's a very interesting definition, and I say TV is passive watching, passive activity. You would switch on TV and do some other things in parallel. And you switch channels if you don't like what you're watching. This is passive. And YouTube is normally active. You would be searching for something. You would watch recommendations. You would have a plan of which thing to see. And this is probably the difference. Many TV partners, and I realize that they're moving to YouTube, and they go to YouTube with special content created especially for YouTube. But people in TV and YouTube is from us to a broader audience, to everybody. Okay, great. We have voted, I hope, by this time. And Adi Shafir, well, she is going to present now about how social media have changed our world. But with that, we're aware that social media is not only a communication channel where we consume information. And there's professional journalism, professional journalists who are creating content for us. So that's with AI, what is the future of content? What is the future of journalism? Mail, please.
Thank you. How? Will it change? Hello, everyone. My name is Yael Shafrir. I'm VP of International Markets at Playbuzz. Playbuzz is an Israeli startup. We're focusing on new ways of telling the story. And by that, we're helping publishers and brands worldwide to better communicate with their audiences. Our vision is a world where people actually consume content, engage with it, and become involved citizens. Today, I'm going to talk about the changes in content consumption habits and about how we help publishers and brands with their challenge of adapting to it. Let me face this challenge first. How did you do it?
You press this one.
Ah, this one. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, so let's get some perspective. Let's go back 500 years ago. This how a newspaper looked like. Looks familiar, right? And let's look outside the window and see what was happening out there. So basically, what you see on the screen is what they called a car back then. It's a carriage. Anybody knows this? Basically a horse you tie into a board with wheels and go on your way. And then imagine how this fits into today's environment. Doesn't, right? It doesn't comply with our needs of being quick and fast and having something to rely on. It's not a commodity, and therefore it doesn't work. How about inside the house? This is a well. You take a bucket, you tie it to a rope, and then you put it down there and fill it with water. How does this comply with our today environment? Could you imagine us going for a drink like this? So how come some technologies didn't change? Imagine that we didn't have running water today. basically, content, the majority of content, pretty much remained the same since 500 years ago, the 16th century, and today we still have these long textual articles on newspapers, and they are supposed to fit into this little screen, and we are expected to read it, and guess what? It doesn't work. Right. So content consumption habits has changed. Actually, the location pretty much remained the same. But let me ask you a question. What do you do first thing when you wake up in the morning? You reach out to your smartphone, right? And what do you do then? You open your favorite social network app, right? It may be Facebook or Twitter or Kontakte or Naklasnike. But this is what you do. You don't take the morning news in there. Right? But the publisher's goals is to make sure that they are coming with you and they are reaching your feed and you are getting to their articles while you are consuming your morning content. Let me ask you another question. Does any of you know how many seconds, in average, people spend on an article? 3. Okay, you're pretty pessimistic. Any other estimation? 10. Okay, so you're quite aware of what's going on. It's 15, and you're right. By the way, if it's video, the average would be 6 seconds, right? Yes? Yeah, but I'm sure you're going to, you are working it out, and we are actually working together, so there are ways to increase this dwell time. We will get to it. Let's talk about another metrics, completion rate. Completion rate meaning a person starting to read an article and getting to the end. Anybody has any estimation of the average percentage of the completion rate? Okay, you're deliberately saying small numbers so that you will be right. So it's 22%. 22% of the people starting to read an article will complete it. And here's what we're suggesting. We're telling publishers and brands worldwide, first of all, think about Snapchat first generation as people who needs to be talked to with images. Make it look nice. Second of all, make it interactive. I will go deeper to that point, but basically, users today want to be part of the story. They are overloaded, and they want to understand how this story is related to them. And third thing is that publishers and brands should refocus their KPIs and should understand that it's not about the quantity, but about the quality. They should not only understand how many impressions or page views or metrics like that, but they should look at the quality KPIs such as dwell time or completion rate, etc. This is not my, whatever I was saying in the past few minutes is not mine or Playbuzz humble opinion. It's something that publishers worldwide are understanding today. The New York Times, probably the most creditable media company in the world. You know, anybody knows how many Pulitzer Prizes do they win? I think it's 127. So these guys, being the best storytellers in the world, are actually understanding that a good story is not enough. A quote from the New York Times report, too much of our daily reports remains dominated by long strings of text. These guys issued this report when they understood that publishers like BuzzFeed or like Gawker are taking the New York Times stories and republishing in a much more engaging way and getting much better KPIs. By the way, more page views, of course, because this is becoming viral and people are sharing it, but this is generated from higher engagement level. How do I go back? Okay. How do you work it out? Companies like Playbuzz enable legacy publishers like the New York Times to create new ways of storytelling. They allow them to become more visual, and they allow them to enrich their content experience and basically transform the story to a user journey. what you see here are different ways of breaking the story down to visual elements that tell your story in a more compelling way, that make people actually consume the content, engage with it, share it, and become more involved and understand better what publishers are trying to deliver. You can see here a few examples of, just long text articles that are transformed to a user journey. By the way, we have been active in the Russian industry for the past 1 year and a half. It's an amazing experience. You have an amazing publishing industry here, and I'm really hoping that you are already meeting these formats on your media. Okay, so we talked about visuality. Let's talk about length. We cannot consume these long textual articles anymore. We cannot, scroll and scroll and scroll endlessly. And we need to have the content broken down into bites, into digestible story bites that will enable us to read the way we consume content today. Another quote from the New York Times is talking about, and I promise to get back to this, so I am. They're talking about the user becoming the biggest part of the story. So, can we show the poll that we put on Telegram, Sergey? Can we show the poll? Did you all vote for the poll? Oh, amazing. Okay, so I asked you, what do you think people care about the most? What is the most interesting thing for users worldwide? Is it celebs or sports or kittens? Of course, you thought it's kittens, maybe. Or politics. Nobody thought it's politics. That's bad. Sex or other. So basically, you are right, but it's other. But does anybody have a specific... not guess, does everybody know what it is, what everybody is interested about? So you just thought other, but you weren't sure. So let me tell you, people are most interested about themselves. And why? It's not because they are narcissists, it's because they are very much, overloaded, and they need to understand how the stories are impacting them, what's in it for them, what does it has to do with their own reality. So it's not like we're offering superficial articles, not at all. It's not like we are saying, take your story about politics and turn it into a quiz. It's not the idea. We ask you to break the story into pieces, make it visual, and make the user engage with it and interact with it. So he will have an experience he would like to share. And of course, he will first need to understand what it's all about, what the story is all about. Okay. Well, that happens too sometimes when people really understand what they are reading. So what we're talking about after that we created this hopefully much better user experience is that we need to not only do our best, but also make sure we're successful. How do we do that? We track the results of our stories. The newsroom needs a clearer understanding that pages, while a meaningful yardstick, do not equal success. So what do we track? We track the quality KPIs. We make sure that we understand that the act that we've been executing in order to improve the storytelling really work. And this is how, this is the Playbuzz way, but everybody has its own measurement systems. Basically, the idea is to, once you publish the story, to make sure that your users really read it, they really share it, and they really spend time with it. Another thing I would say on this note is that getting the data about your users, about how much time do they spend on specific stories, or like I asked you in the poll, what do they think about this thing or the other, will generate a much better brand or publisher-user dialogue. Why? Because when you know somebody, you can tell him the relevant story for him, and you can tell it in a way that will be relevant for him. So the idea is learn your audience, understand that they are different, understand that they have different content consumption habits, understand that they are interested in different things, and adapt the way you tell stories to who they are. Another sad thing that came up from the New York Times report was that internet is brutal to mediocrity, and I beg to differ. I think internet is everything, and it can be mediocre, but it can also be brilliant, and it all depends on how much time and effort you invest in making it brilliant. So I hope that you grow up to be great journalists and very open-minded and innovative, and that you will make the internet great again. Let me just tell us, end this session by telling a little bit about who we are. I now have probably 3 minutes more, but I will just tell you, Playbuzz is by now a 5-year-old company. This, I'm just not bragging, just want you to take my things seriously. So we're working with 13,000 publishers and brands worldwide, probably at least top 20 in Russia and more than 100 websites in Russia in general. We were the most shared platform on Facebook in 2015 by accident. We're not a viral site, we're a B2B platform. Therefore, we took ourselves off Whip News list and congratulated our partners for being successful by using our platform. But it was a great POC that we understand how to tell stories that will engage users and make them share this experience with others. Another maybe relevant thing here is that we won the best publishing platform for a project we did with Huffington Post UK post-Brexit. These guys understood that they want their younger audience get more engaged with politics. You said politics doesn't interest anybody, so they understood it and they wanted to make it more interesting. So they adopted our platform in order to increase their dwell times and make their users more interested in politics. Let me end this by with a few numbers. And I think these numbers represent what we're trying to do with content, how we're trying to save the storytelling world. So we discussed 22% as the average completion rate. We're getting this up by a lot, actually, and we're talking about more than 85 completion rate in average. About share. The average share rate is less than 1%. We're talking about more than 5%. And we discussed before the 15 seconds per article, where we're talking about something completely different. And the reason is because we are making the story about the user, because it's visual, and because it's a user experience they want to share with their friends. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And just one question. You are speaking about short articles, videos, pictures, and what do you think about paywall in the world wide?
About?
Paywall.
About paywall. Well, I think it's a very good way for publishers to survive. I think it was, the New York Times used it. It was the first one to use it. Not very successfully, I'm afraid. I mean, they did make a lot of revenues from it, and I think even the revenues from payments over exceeded the revenues from advertising. But still, I read that they have to lay off people, and it's not making them super successful. But it's a good way to avoid relying solely on advertisement. I don't think it's It's instead of trying to improve the way they communicate with their audience or the way they communicate with new audience. Because one of the biggest problems of publishers is the young generation that's not loyal to any publisher.
Okay, thank you. И когда мы говорим про
And when we talk about communication of people between each other, we are saying that we are ready to interact not just with one another, but also with brands. And the more active we interact, actually we interact with the brands, the greater audience we can gather. And what Ilya was talking, Yael was talking about, it's the story about the other content. It's the story about us. It's important for us to create around ourselves an ecosystem of what we do, what we are about. And now, if you would allow me, I would go to the next speaker, who is exactly focused on these things that I've just outlined. Thierry Celerine works for Buzz Factory. He's the CEO of Buzz Factory, and I would like him to speak about how, as users, we can interact with various brands in the network, and to what extent this is our future.
I can speak in Russian, but my Russian is not that good as my English. So, okay? English. Okay, good. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Just a few words about myself, so I have the trick to find out how it works. Yes, okay, I got it. A few words about myself. I'm living in Russia 15 years. My wife is Russian, so I'm speaking Russian. I'm working in advertising business for 12 years, so I know pretty well this industry. I've created my own agency, Buzz Factory, in 2010, and we are specialized in relationship with bloggers. Okay, so in 2010 it wasn't interesting for no one in Russia, and now it's very interesting for everyone. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm also the president of an association called French Tech. Maybe you heard of it. It's a governmental association that promotes French technology abroad. So French technology is very great. Just remember that. Today I will speak about advertising, the advertising industry, and the future of the advertising industry. And in order to speak about the future, I have to speak about the present. Where are we now? Yesterday evening, I was in a plane, I was working on my presentation, and I was looking for a picture or something that will represent what I think is right now the situation of the advertising industry. And I found this which is really representative. The digital advertising or the advertising industry is dead and it doesn't know it. What do I mean? Just think about it. Internet advertising is everywhere. You spend more time on the internet, you spend time on social media. Who is using here who's not using social media? Who's never using social media among you? No one, okay. So look at the number of advertising messages you will see on Facebook, for instance. I will not speak about Google. It's absolutely everywhere. Advertising is becoming more and more aggressive. I've been working with a lot of technological companies, and most of these companies have just one idea in mind, is how to create a new format to show you advertising where before you will not see advertising. Advertising is not relevant, okay? So you go online, you buy a pair of shoes, and for 2 weeks after you bought the pair of shoes, you will see the same advertising, please buy this pair of shoes. So there is something really wrong about advertising, and for a simple reason. The advertising business has been created as we know it in the 50s. And in the 50s, you have one way of communication. It was brand-centric. The idea is very simple. The more you see my brand, the more you'll buy my brand, okay? But this format is not working anymore because people are taking power about the way they manage their relationship with brands. And several factors are explaining how this advertising industry is changing. First of all, there is a new consumer purchase journey. this is a very important part. If you are interested in marketing and advertising, this is how people consume. 10 years ago, it was quite straightforward. We didn't have internet as we have now. We have few media. It was quite easy to reach people, you know, with a very straightforward information. Now people, through the internet, they're consuming in a completely different way. Just think about it for yourself. You discover new products through bloggers. When you discover new product, what you do, you go on a website in order to read for opinions of other consumers in order to be sure that this is a good product. Then probably you will go on a price comparison website in order to find where can you buy this product the cheapest. Then you go on a shop. When you go on the shop right now, you have your mobile phone, so all the time you check with your friend, is it the nice outfit, can I buy it, do I buy it? And when I bought it, then I share it on social media. So internet has changed completely the way people are buying right now and consuming any brand. And there are three factors were mainly explaining this change. First of all is e-commerce. E-commerce changed everything because now I can buy anything at any time. And if you know Amazon, Amazon is the #1 in the world with e-commerce, they have launched a completely crazy program that in 25 cities in the US, you can buy a list of 30,000 products, any of product from this list, and in 2 hours, you will receive it at your home. And now they're working even with a new thing, is in 1 hour delivery. So for instance, you woke up in the morning, you don't have milk, you order it, and in 1 hour you have milk at your home. So e-commerce changed the way we consume. Then social media. Social media also changed the way we exchange information with our friends and with our families and with our people from our social groups, okay? So we ask more opinion. And third is obviously mobile technology. And why mobile technology change everything? Well, it gives us more possibility to reach e-commerce and to reach social media. So, besides that, because of that, in the marketing and advertising agency, there is a huge shift. Before, we were talking about marketing mix. The word marketing mix is not used anymore. Right now, we speak about customer experience. What is customer experience? The idea is to put the customer in the center of the approach. So it's a customer-centric. The idea for a brand is to know everything about your customer. Not a group, not a segment, but every single individual, okay? How advertising is working, okay? For instance, I'm selling cars, okay? I have a Nissan Juke. Maybe you know Nissan Juke? It's small cars. So it's for women living in the city. So I will try to find a way to reach women living in the city. But if we say women living in the city, there's hundreds of subgroups of people. They are different. You have younger, you have moms, and all these segments, they're interested in completely different ways. So the concept of customer-centric, the customer experience, is trying to optimize the way the brand is reached at any single touch point. For a brand, the experience with the customer shall be the same everywhere. If the person is calling the hotline, if the person is coming to a website, if the person is coming to the shop, the experience should be exactly the same. Oh. The other main thing that is changing absolutely everything is technology. Technology is completely disrupting the advertising business. Here I just put some of the factors in which, in my opinion, are the main factor of change in advertising. It's robots, artificial intelligence, virtual augmented reality, big data, smart home, connected objects. I was last week in Paris for a big advertising forum, and there were about 40 brands who came and said their best practices. All these 40 brands, they have two words that come all the time, is big data and artificial intelligence. That's the thing, that is the future. What is big data? Big data is the possibility to collect data. So right now, again, through smart homes, through connected objects, we have more opportunities to get data from our consumers. A small story also, which is interesting also, I didn't know that, I learned it last week, is main retailer right now, they're selling their data back to the agencies, which means that if you want someone coming to a shop and doing something and buying on the shop and having any exchange with the brand and, in the shop, the retailers now are selling this information. So it's more information that you have about your consumers. The thing is, you have to do something with this information, and that's where right now is the problem. And then you have artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence just make everything logical for us. For now, honestly, artificial intelligence is at the very beginning. So a lot of people are talking about it, but in reality, it's a very small number of companies who have real artificial intelligence. But these two factors, they're just disrupting the industry. Just a quick information. I was reading an article. Do you know there is a huge research in the US on 1,000 people, and asked them the question, you have a smartphone, how many new app did you upload it on your phone from the beginning of the year, 2017, till June? So how many application people uploaded? Yes? 3? No? How much? Any application? 10? Okay. Over the 1,000 people, 50%, so 500 people said they did not upload a single application. And about the other 50%, who I say, 250 said they uploaded once, but they never opened it. And if we asked this question 5 years ago, it would have been 10 or 15 a month. And in the other way around, you have more than 100,000 Messenger chatbots that have been launched on Messenger since 2016. So you have here another shift from the app to the Messenger, from the social media to the Messenger. So the shifts are being much more faster, happening much more faster than before. Here I want to show you how new technology will impact the marketing funnel. So marketing funnel will not change. When someone didn't know about your brand, you have to reach him, then you have to push the person to buy a first time. When the person bought the first time, you have to push it to buy several times, and then to become a loyal consumer. So before, right now, today, in order to reach people, you use advertising and display advertising, content marketing, and website trafficking. In the future, we will use native personalized advertising, i.e., artificial intelligence generated content, and programmatic media buying. In order to act, today use performance marketing, use promo campaign, you use influencer marketing. In the future, you will use CPO advertising, so cost per order, so you will pay only when people buy your product, dynamic pricing, and shoppable content. In order to convert, you use today email marketing, loyalty program. In the future, you will use geofencing communication and predictive selling. In order to engage, now you use brand communities, so social media communities, recommendation. In the future, you'll use chatbot supporting and subscription model. This is today. If I do this chart in 6 months, there will be new technologies. And this is one of the challenges for us right now, is to keep up with the appearance of these new technologies. And this is the future that we're heading to. Today, we're already able to do some shit like this. So again, we share information, and we know that this John, I've been to your shop, he started to buy something, and then he left the shop. Today you have that on the internet, tomorrow you have that on the physical world. And the question is, where's the limit? So this is a very funny drawing that's showing that going further into that direction, we can have big problem with privacy. To resume all what I said, today we're right here. So digital marketing is already over. There is no digital marketing, there is marketing. Digital advertising is more than 50% of all advertising. So making the differentiation between digital and non-digital doesn't make sense anymore. Right now we're going into the predictive marketing. What is predictive marketing? Think about it for yourself. We all of us, we're very predictive people. We wake up at the same time in the morning, we go to the same job or to the same university, we meet with the same friend, we have our favorite restaurant, favorite bars. So it's quite easy to know where we will be at a certain time. Okay, so knowing that, it will be quite easy actually to find a way to propose services that go in what we're doing right now and what we love right now. I will finish with small notes. A lot of discussion right now are about artificial intelligence, both robots, and how it will impact the industry. it is said that these new technologies will obviously destroy jobs. Every professional I'm speaking with, everybody is agree with that. But of course, it will also create new opportunities. So here I've prepared a small list of, into my opinion, what will be the 5 jobs that will disappear in the future, and what will be the 5 jobs that will be the more into demand. This is the 5 jobs that, according to my opinion, will disappear. First of all, online marketers. There are very, very good programs today, like Marketo, like other one, that are automizing most of what marketers are doing. And if you add to that artificial intelligence, which will be able to learn from the mistake and optimize the approach, then I can tell you that the work of a marketer in the future will simply disappear. Journalists and copywriters. I have a lot of friends, copywriter, journalists. It's a big industry. Right now, you already have system programs that are able to write articles by themselves. I know that in the US, some of the publishers are already using it. Today, they're writing small articles, but in the future, they will be able to write long articles, long read articles. And according to the way people will interact with those articles, the technology will be able to modify it, make it longer, make it shorter. So journalists, copywriters, I'm pretty sure it will disappear. Media planners. I've been working in a media agency for many years. So what is a media planner? It's someone that knows all the media, and I will recommend to a client to say, oh, you have this product, it's better to communicate in this platform, in this website, in this TV channel, on this radio. This will disappear. Today you have programmatic, real-time bidding. So all the media buying is doing automatically. And if it's done automatically, it's optimized automatically, and the job of a media planner is no longer in need. Financial analyst advisors, the same thing. You can apply artificial intelligence to finance, and they will make a much better job than the people that can make mistakes, because artificial intelligence will not make any mistake in the future. And last one is travel, real estate agents. Of course, all of us, when we're traveling somewhere, what we do, we go on booking.com, we go on Skyscanner, and we organize our holidays by ourselves. So now, what are the 5 jobs that, in my opinion, will be the most in demand in the future? First of all, this Chief Experience Officer. So Chief Experience Officer, that will be the future of the Chief Marketing Officer. The idea is to have this omni-channel approach of our consumers, to make the experience of a brand unique and completely different from the competitors. Chief Content Officer, I believe in the potential of content. We've been speaking about content with our previous speakers. Content is what matters. Sergey asked a question to Kirill about YouTube. I think the platform is not important. I don't know what will be in 5 years, if Google will be as stronger, will be Facebook stronger than the other one. What matters is the content. And look at what Netflix is doing. Look at what Amazon is doing. They are investing a lot of money in creating the content, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what people want to see better. Data scientists, I told you about, there is a lot of data. There will be much more data points in the future, but data is useless if no one is doing anything with it. And that's the big problem we have right now. You speak with a lot of people. Companies say they have millions of information about their user, but they are doing absolutely nothing with that. So data scientists, right now, it's starting. I've seen some people which are the data scientists in France. These people, when they start, they already have huge salaries because there are few people on the market, and everybody wants to have someone like this in their team. Cybersecurity. Unfortunately, we speak very few about cybersecurity when we discuss about innovation. This is a very important topic. Today, the most people have technology allowing them having access to the internet, the more possibilities you give also to people to breach into your life, and to steal your information. I had this problem last year. I know a lot of people who had this problem. This is becoming a really really hustle. So cybersecurity have a huge potential in the future. And final is web engineers, coding specialists. Again, I will not speak about Google because they're stealing all the best web engineers on the Russian market. Not only you, but also big players like Facebook, like Microsoft. Yes, this is a very high on demand sector. There are a lot of very good web engineers right now, but I think that the demand for web engineer will just explode in the future. That's it. Thank you very much.
Кири, спасибо. У меня вопрос следующий. Ты говорил про большие данные.
Thank you so much. My question is this. You spoke about big data today at government level in Russia and abroad. This has been discussed right now. And what we're talking about, that some companies selling to other companies, this big data to other companies from users. Previous session, we discussed that our life is becoming public in the internet, no privacy. So my question is this. Do we need regulation of big data in the world? Or do we follow the principle of self-regulation? Let it happen like it happens. Well, I believe, for sure, the government should adopt laws while understanding the threats before us. The government should enact laws, but there's one problem. I know what's happening in France. You know what's happening in Russia. Well, the government or the state is very big structure. Once they start forming commissions to discuss that, preparing laws, 10 years may pass. And once they're ready to do something, that would be late. Well, of course, this has been to be tackled. And the same artificial intelligence. I think it's right now that the laws should be passed to structure and define what's possible and what's not possible. Because we're moving forward quickly, running even, and there's a danger. Once we realize the threat, that would be too late. Okay, great, thank you. It's interesting and the right thing to state it like this. We did not do anything in that respect. This is new, and this is what the business, the government, and society should be doing. And now, questions and answers, because previous session we had very little time for Q&A, and today we have more time. Well, you raised your hand first. Blue scarf, and we need microphones. Introduce yourself and ask a question from one of the speakers. Can you hear me? My name is Alexandra from Tula region. My question to Kirill. YouTube. So many users who place their content. You're saying that professionals are coming into this area, and at the same time, a lot of content is very low quality in terms of what is inside and is in essence and in form. Because people using smartphones, some are good, some are bad. A lot of trash content, which is very popular. So my question is, where is it going to be moving? The video content in YouTube in terms of quality. What's going to be more popular, professional things or something down to earth, what's happening right around us, people placing it right on the spot without editing anything, without processing it in any way. Thank you for the question. Very good question. Well, YouTube globally, it's more than 400 hours of content uploaded every minute. So it's a huge system to understand the size. It's the head and long tail. The head would always be professional content, and it's becoming more and more. opinion leaders, bloggers, 10 years ago, or 2010, that was the first boom, even their quality changed. The quality of their content and the way they present their information. And of course, more and more professionals are coming. And the basis will be professional content. Of course, content recorded from smartphones, who is simply starting that thing, there will be a place for it, but that depends on you. You can't make your own selection. YouTube is a personalized tool. You subscribe to channels yourselves, what you saw last time, you selected yourself, that would define your offering on your homepage. But of course, professional content is always a priority. The more subscribers, the better the quality, the more the chances that content would appear before you. But the future is with the professionals, not the way we understand it right now. Not TV professionals with those big cameras, etc., etc. Not exactly like this. Professionals growing out of our environment, out of people who initially may not have come from the media business, and will gradually become such people. This is what Thierry spoke about, that we will no longer have professional journalists, but we will have journalists evolved out of bloggers and regular users. And see what happens to Facebook and Instagram. It's stories in the social media that are most popular, not simply putting likes to your photos. Yes, that's nice. Writing content is being polarized, like you spoke about polarization of consumption, either very low quality or very good quality. The same happening to content. It's quick content is a losing ground, but and professional content becoming more important, and that's an important change. And to what my colleague has said, I'd like to add something. Humanitarian professions will no longer be the artificial intelligence, etc., keep on asking about, will be added, will be more popular. We're asking ourselves who we are. We're more creative people, musicians, art directors, bloggers. They're expressing their opinion, and growing audience around them. Psychologists, humanitarian professions would again be trendy. Over the past few years, that was not very popular because we need more software developers, finance people, etc. I think the humanities would grow. I would like to add a few words here. And there's another trend. First of all, it's become much easier to buy a good phone from which you can shoot a good video. As a result, we have a lot more content, and good content or good quality content may be lost in that sea of medium quality content. And second, I worked the project with Odnoklassniki. They have a new function which is called Live. This is people who are doing live streaming video. Check it out. It's awful, actually. There are people in the kitchen talking rubbish to their phones while they're cutting fish, cooking. But what's funny is these people have millions of views. And there's one subjective point here. What is quality content for us may not be quality content for some other people. This woman who cooks fish may create good quality content for someone, not for us. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Okay, next question. This girl, blue scarf, first row. My name is Anna. I'm from St. Petersburg. My question to Yael. on analytical journalism. Of course, it's changing, media content added, infographics added, but it seems that very complex, thematic, deep story, difficult to convert, and this easy to consume. What would happen with this part of journalistic, deep analytics? Is it going to stay, or how is it going to change?
I hope I understand the question correctly. You're asking what's going to happen to serious journalism? How is it going to stay part of our
text?
What's going to happen with the long reads?
Yeah. I think so. First of all, our platform is totally designed for long reads. It just replaces part of the textual long text paragraph with interactive content. So, for example, I think I gave it to someone here. We can talk about what happened in the last 10 years in education in Russia, right? This is definitely a serious long read. But we can also involve in this article question about what do you know about what happened in the past 10 years in Russian education. And then, first of all, the content is about you, what you know, how this information meets you, and then you are more engaged, you are more involved, and if you end up knowing a lot about it, you will share this article. So we're not talking about eliminating long-form articles, not at all, but just making them more engaging, more visual, more inclusive to the reader, meaning the reader is part of the story, and the story is also about him.
Спасибо. Давайте
А вопрос к залу. Можно кто
A question to the audience. Over the past month, have anybody read a fiction book? So Long Read is still alive. That young man. Hello, I'm Timur. My question, Kirill, is to you. And Thierry, you as well. Don't you think that YouTube is like Russia in the 90s? In the 90s, you can become rich very quick and in YouTube, it is the same. 3-4 years ago, it was like Russia in the 1990s. You can grow very quickly, could grow very quickly. Now it's not that easy. So my question to you, Kirill, what is the niche in YouTube that would allow people to earn a lot of money quickly in YouTube? What kind of format would be the commercial type? And a question to you. Don't you think that the trend of advertisement with bloggers, is it overvalued or undervalued? How relevant it is, the advertisement with the bloggers?
Спасибо за вопрос. Да.
Thank you for your question. Of course, speaking about YouTube, it's a huge platform, and you shouldn't just look at what's at the top. We're about to launch a Next Up program which will help the new creators to use their best property. And there are channels about making moonshine for farmers, or there are professional fishermen's channels with professionally made content. If we talk only about those that are widely known, large channels, I mean, as I said in my presentation, we have to look at things we used to watch in the past when the TV was still pervasive, before the emergence of YouTube, and try to relaunch them. But this time with the new language and with the new characters. If you remember, we had this the Moment of Glory program, and we could probably relaunch this on YouTube, and it could be successful, something that would bring you, as the new creator, some money. But I think the creativity should come first. Okay, there are two approaches to this. You can be successful as a blogger. I mean, you can regard this as creativity and then grow as a creator, or you can look at it as business. Like Drushkov show, you have a project, you have a business plan, you have a certain life cycle you follow, then once you're done, you start a new project. I hope I answered your question. Wonderful, great. I would like to add to this. I read a very interesting piece this summer. In America, YouTube is huge, and there are stars on YouTube. They're really stars, media stars. There is a VidCon, it's a video conference, and they come there as true red carpet stars from Hollywood. And there was one young gentleman who wanted to become the best on YouTube, and he made a lot of very dangerous and strange videos. And he became very popular because he was doing stupid things that normal people would never do, would never attempt. At one point, he had a very stupid idea. He said to himself, I have this very thick book, the Bible. It's very thick. You will take a gun, you will shoot at me, and the Bible will stop the bullet. But of course, the gun is very powerful, and the wife of this blogger shot him through the Bible. The Bible was not thick enough, and so he got killed. A lot of people started talking about it. So the question is whether it's worth it. I don't think so. We need to say that there's now a lot of people who we can consider as bloggers or influencers, leaders of opinion. If these are people who have more than 5,000 subscribers on any social media, in Russia there are 80,000 people that we can consider influencers. We have been interacting with influencers for about 7 years. And I would like to say that there's about 500 people we work with, because the rest of them are impossible to interact with or work with. So it's best to get to the top. You really have to be super creative. You really need to understand your audience. It's like creating virus-type videos, viral videos, because there's no guarantee that you will become number one. And the people that are at the top right now, it just happens so that they became the top bloggers. There are also celebrities like Olga Buzova here in Russia. Everyone knows her on television, and once they learned about her on television, they started subscribing to her on social media. But if she hadn't been a star on the television, nobody would have known about her. To answer your second question, I see that you are winking at me. I'm answering your question. Oh, well, they are winking at me so that I could give them the floor. Okay. The industry of the influencer-based marketing is growing very exponentially. We have been monitoring this. We have been doing this for quite some time. The money is much bigger there. There are companies that want to spend more money and time on that. So it's the reason why it's growing so fast. But 80% of everything that exists is helping to prop up the 100 people or 200 people that are essentially the people that have the most of the contracts. So you shouldn't think, well, if I start tomorrow, I'll become a superstar. It works the other way around. I will start. I will be sincere. I will do something interesting, and if I become popular, then I will earn money, not the other way around. No one became a top blogger because they wanted to make money. Thank you. But in reality, we need to understand that to become a popular blogger is a lot of work, hard work. Try to maintain your channel on Facebook or in the VKontakte with certain content that would make sense, with videos, with links and images. It's not as easy as it seems on the surface. That's hard work, and that's what the bloggers do. But to continue what you mentioned, which subject should one select today to become a popular blogger? I think you need to monitor what is being published by Google in terms of what's trending today, and maybe look at the things that are maybe less popular but contemporary, and then maybe get involved in that. And 5 years ago, and Kirill will correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube 5 years ago was approaching many Russian producers of content, and there was a conversation. There's not enough of culinary content, but now we have a lot of it. So you take whatever you want to cook and just show it on video. Of course, there are limitations because the content by nature is not really all-encompassing. I mean, it's limited. There are two strategies here. One of them is to make a very popular content. The other one is to have a niche content, but with a very stable audience. But this is something that would probably be very popular because the internet likes targeted presentation, because that's what my colleague was talking about in her presentation. And so there was someone asking a question over there, Oleg Konov with the Volgograd branch. The question to Thierry, the question has to do with journalism. In your accreditation, in your presentation, there was a list of professions that will go away. What about journalism? How are the journalists going to be replaced by the people who are gathering information? I was recently in another country. I liked their approach. It's a small country. It's a poor country. What they do to collect information. If something happens, they will have the broadcast from Instagram. And to what extent do you think this is something that can be implemented here in Russia using the official hashtags? Okay, to me, this is a matter of timing. The question of what will happen in 3 years, what will happen in 10 years, you're all students here, young people, you're all, you need to be aware of the fact that 10 years in terms of career is a short period of time. But if you are beginning to work for an industry that will be disappearing in 10, 12 years, this is just a matter of outlook. I mean, you need to be watching that closely. What I was really surprised by some examples that I saw, and they really worked. There was an Israeli startup company. I just don't remember the name, but it is quite successful in the States as well. They are gathering information from various sources, including Twitter, social media of different kinds. And whenever they see that people are discussing a particular subject, they will automatically gather articles on that particular subject. And the article that they are talking about is the article that can be read. It's not something that was written by a robot, like it was the case 5 years ago. It's going to be a real article, well written. So now AI cannot write a book. But who would say that they are not going to be able to do this in 10 or 15 years? So let us start thinking about what may happen in the future. And if we do, well, you will probably agree with me. If we look at the information that is being collected now, automated, and maybe later on it will be collected in a readable way. And if we already seeing things like that, maybe journalists are not going to be required after some time. But I can say there are a lot of journalists around. I do not read a lot of Russian journalists, but I read French journalists. I read the French press, and there are different people representing different categories. There are the lefties, there are the righties. But I will be reading those journalists that are closer to my outlook on life. I will be reading those that are sharing my point of view. And the goal of the journalist is to express his opinion. And if we do not have a capability of really appraising someone who is not on the same page with me, then probably I won't have this opportunity, and therefore the profession will be gone. The live journalists are probably the most interesting. You will be preferring the articles written by live journalists, but who knows? Who knows? That's the question. Who knows? Who wrote the article, a robot or a journalist? And the Blade Runner sequel, 1947, is exactly about that. I haven't seen it yet. Well, definitely have to go. There was an individual there at the back of the room. Hello, my name is Arthur. A question for Kirill. Just recently, there was a piece of news that Facebook stopped its neural network because bots started talking to each other in their simplified language. Have you had the cases in YouTube so that bots would start talking users that the bloggers wouldn't understand? And what should one do if the bots started talking to each other? I'm not aware of that because that's not my my specialty. I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I have no recipe. We probably should ask people from Facebook who had to stop this. I'm not really competent to answer this question. Thank you. But don't get upset. I think in a while you will find an answer to this question, maybe at the forum. Are there any other questions left? There is a lady in the second row. Hello, dear audience, dear speakers. My name is Olga, and I come from the Khabarovsk region. The question I have is, today we were talking about the exponential growth of video content, the increase of the volume of information presented in the video format, but we shouldn't be forgetting that all of this is created with the way we perceive things through our eyes. And I would like to ask the audience to raise hands if you've had your eyesight deteriorating over several years because you're using video a lot or watching video a lot. Things are okay and not too bad. I'm also a user of contact lenses, and I can see that our speakers wear glasses. I would like to ask them to sort of comment on the reverse side of this process. Thank you. That's a very surprising question. I myself wear contacts, but my eyesight deteriorated when I was reading books, not when I started watching videos. So I think it's just a matter of how we are built. Maybe in the future we will be able to augment our bodies with artificial eyes. I don't know. And H plus human plus theory is about that. So there's a theory that says that the nature and the evolution are advancing themselves through a human. And what later will happen will be a biological human, will be a technological man, especially if we are the people that will learn how to move, replace our conscience into an artificial object. And maybe we will be able to improve our eyesight so that we don't have to wear glasses or to wear contacts. And by the way, this is where technology really works. Remember the monitors and OCR tubes for television that we used in the old days. I don't know how old you are, but you probably don't remember. I'm 31, and I remember those screens that were huge, and the televisions occupied a lot of space. Now we have 4K LCD screens, and Samsung has this quantum pixels, whatever they call that technology. So I think tech companies, the one that make those screens, are working on improving our eyesight so that we will feel comfortable watching video. And of course, we need to take pauses, step outside, and get distracted, which means that we need to do that rarely, because everything is now in the video format. Well, it's a matter of your personal discipline. You have to force yourself to walk outside and go for a walk rather than watching YouTube. I'm trying to do this, although I fail miserably every time I try not to look at my smartphone. Thank you very much.
You want to continue, or you want to talk to the other glasses wearing people? Okay, actually, I'm wearing glasses since I was in high school, so way before we started getting addicted to video. But I would say this, definitely, I think people read less the small letters. For example, being the most shared website in Facebook, we know that when you put your post on Facebook, right, and you have the status line, and then you have the image, what we usually do, and when I just came to Playbuzz, it struck me as weird, we duplicate the line we put on the post, and we write it on the image itself. Why? Because we discovered nobody reads this line. Everybody is only triggered by the image, and then they read what's on the image, and they don't read what's above. So this is one example of how the human mind probably with the limitations of the vision is coming across the text. Or another thing, when we, and this is kind of relates to your question, when we are doing a textual paragraph and we want to grab the user's attention, we have this dynamic marker that moves while the user is scrolling through the paragraph. So the idea is, yes, it's becoming harder and harder for users to read the text, not only because their sight is deteriorating, but also because their attention is totally, is constantly disrupted. And that's why we need to, I'm sure we're going to have different technologies that will perfect the user's vision, the same way we have different earphones that now perfecting the way people are hearing. But I think the attention span of users is going to continue and deteriorate. This is kind of bad, but this is what we are trying to work with and understand. And I think storytellers, whether publishers, brands, or just people trying to get their audience, will need to work harder in order to get the people to consume the content, be more creative about it, and yes, probably avoid small letters that nobody can pay attention to anymore.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Just to supplement what Yael has said, the videos get safer than the text.
Agree. And also, by the way, we use a lot of text on video, big letters, and that's also proven to be very efficient because people are viewing the video, but they're also reading the text if it's on video.
No.
Спасибо. Давайте еще несколько вопросов.
Thank you very much. Let's just have a couple of questions, and then we will have to wrap it up. A few people that want to ask a question in the back.
Already on the panel said that we need to be creative. My question is, generally what we see is a negative media with videos having a extreme criticism are getting more recognition as compared to the positive videos. So being creative negatively is harmful to society. What are your views on that?
I think he's talking about the fact that negative stories drive more attention than positive stories, right? Well, this is humanity, unfortunately. People are less about complimenting other people and more about bad stuff. But and it's also, I think, relate to the other gentleman's question about what's going to be successful. But I think people are looking for funny stuff, which is positive. And people are into culinary, which is also might be boring and shitty, but still positive, not negative, unless you, I don't know, unless it ends up with something really untasty. So I guess it's always a combination. It's stories are always about the creative idea. I think Thierry is totally right that the people who will, the roles who will stay around here for many years are always around being creative and insightful. I really hope that negativity is not going to take over our content.
If I can add something, I have some lesson about storytelling, and I think the very first thing that the professor is telling you when you study storytelling is when you have a story which starts dogs bites an old lady, nobody will read it. And if you have the story old lady bites a dog, everybody will read it. So I think there is something in the human nature which is maybe a little bit perverse, and we're looking for new things, and things that our mind, cannot imagine. So we're looking at our movies. We like that. We know that it is scary, but we will look at that, And in everything in the publishing world, if you want to really drag attention, you have to use strong elements, because you know that strong elements will trigger human interest.
Спасибо. Давайте еще один вопрос.
Thank you very much. Let's have one more question and then let us go for a short break. There was someone here in the front row. And the microphone is right next to you. Hello, my name is Dmitry Dikarev from Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. Well, you asked one question, but there will be two, unfortunately. One is for Yale. I will just select one. Regarding what you said, the trend now is that humans are consuming information in smaller bursts. It's because the mobile internet has allowed us to consume this on the way to work or in between chores. The question is whether there are consequences to this habit in terms of whether it will change your mentality, your way of thinking, how you think. Have there been any studies? And maybe companies are trying to understand how this content should be consumed. And the question number two is to everyone, but primarily it's for Thierry. You showed a slide where the customer was in the center and everything around it was trying to adapt to that user. Are there practices in some companies that you are aware of where they do not just try to adapt to the user, but try to influence the user's interests? And have there been any developments in that field? That's what I'm curious about. Thank you. Apple is one example.
So first question was about does the kind of random consumption of content influence our mind, right? So I do know about lots of researchers about the attention span that keeps decreasing. Also, there's the Gestalt theory, which is pretty old, but as opposed to the chronological theory, which means that a younger generation, I think back then it's pretty old, but it talked about people being able to divide their attention between 7 different content worlds, let's call it, in parallel. I think now it's probably 70 or something like that. But being really constantly in the need of dividing our attention, I think definitely changes our mind. By the way, I don't think it's for the negative. It makes us much more multitasking. It requires from us to prioritize what's more important than the other constantly. Like every minute, you need to decide in which window are you choosing to consume your video or textual or whatever content it is. So I'm sure it makes our mind much more rapid, much more efficient. And in a way, I think it will probably increase the human mind's IQ in the next few years. I hope so. Well, it's actually pretty much, I think, opposed to what other people are saying, you know, that younger generation are becoming more stupid. But having 2 kids, pretty smart ones, I can say it's totally wrong.
Я от себя добавлю тоже, да, что
And on my own behalf, I would like to say that let's wait for Yael to put her headset on.
right now, nowadays, that younger generation, they are kind of tweet-minded. Yeah,
totally.
they're thinking in 140 symbols.
Yeah.
То, что современное поколение немножечко...
The contemporary generation is thinking in tweet mind, 140 characters, a lot of information from various sources, and this is something that prevents us from concentrating. And why did people create great things a while ago, even before the TV era? Because they didn't have anything to do. 1 paper a day, a maximum of that, right?
Maybe boredom leads to greatness.
Да.
But I think, so maybe it won't be one person focusing on one great invention, but I think on the other hand, people are able to do much more in a specific time, and I really hope that, you know, the great minds will continue focusing on what is interesting for them, but will be influenced by multiple sources.
Конечно.
And therefore able to reach even greater inventions.
Да, сегодня тоже есть большие умы, и их много.
And today we have great minds as well, and there's a lot of them. But I wanted to add to what Yael has just said, and that is precisely why the mindfulness is so important. Meditation is recommended because people need to separate their time between different things and concentrate on something specific at one time. Because right now we are finding ourselves in a wide stream of information. And we need to train ourselves not to forget what concentration is about. And that will be very good because your brain will be trained to multitasking, and at the same time it will be able to concentrate if necessary at this given moment. Thank you very much. I think we are about to finish because people are sort of dispersing because it's lunchtime. There's a lot of participants, and unfortunately, there are certain things that remain constant. Our needs remain constant. Thank you very much for a very engaging discussion, and thank you to the audience for their involvement and very interesting questions. Thanks a lot, and we will continue our work in about an hour's time.